Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar on how to download completion, grad rate, and transfer data. This is the data we use for our top improver analysis, and this is a demonstration of how we did that. So let me show you a little bit about what we're going to do today. On this webinar, it's going to be broken down into two parts because there's so much data and processes involved that Part A will entail downloading the data for completion, grad rate, and transfer data, and I'll show you where on the agency's website you can find that. Once you have that data, you'll be able to make comparisons by region and peer group, and I'll show you how we do that. In Part B, we're going to take a deeper dive under the hood and look at an in-depth analysis of the formulas. Once we have all that, what we can do is build a top improver matrix visual that we shared at the peer group accountability meetings, and so we're going to share that with you as well. All right, as mentioned before, Part A is going to be about how to download the data and being able to make the comparisons across regions and peer groups. Before we get there, because not everyone who is watching this webinar was at the accountability peer group meetings, I'm going to give a brief top improver overview. It's going to entail how we got the data, what we did with the data, and what was the purpose of sharing the data with the different institutions at the accountability peer group meetings. Okay. So this year the focus was on a few areas, and as you can see here, the focus of this analysis was on completion, associated completion targets, fields of study for community technical colleges, and transfer for four-year institutions. So looking at the first bullet point that we were looking at for the first data set was the overall 60 by 30 completion data, and we looked at the time period from 2016 to 2018. Our associated target completions included the target population, and we looked at African American. For CTCs, we had a minimum of 50 completions. For Hispanics, and then in CCCs for Hispanic completions, we had a minimum of 50 completions. We also looked at male for both sectors, economically disadvantaged for both sectors, and for CCCs, we looked at field of study completions. The graduation rates are listed there below. As you can see, the three-year graduation rate applies only to the CCCs, and we also looked at transfer graduation rates. The top improver analysis compared institutions by two dimensions. One was peer group, and the second was region. You can see a map of the 10 higher education regions to your right here. And what we wanted to see is which institutions achieve the top measures on both dimensions. So in order to do that, we combined some of the smaller regions. As you can see here, West Texas and Upper Rio Grande were combined. Southeast and Upper East were combined, and High Plains and Northwest were also combined. And those were combined because they were in close proximity to each other, and so we felt that it would balance out the rest of the analysis. And just for this analysis, we combined Lamar colleges and technical state colleges. Digging a little bit more into the methodology, as mentioned before, the time period was from the years 2016 to 2018, so it's a three-year time period. And the way we analyze completion outcomes, we use percent change, my apologies. For graduation rates, we analyzed them using percentage point change, and we also had a rating system where it consisted of low, medium, and high, and we used percentiles to figure out what was a low. So for example, here, low, if you were at the 50th or less than percentile, you were considered low category for that, either region or peer group. For medium, the spread was from the 51st to the 89th percentile, and if you were in the high category for either region or peer group, you were at or greater than the 90th percentile. Okay, that being said, some of the resources you're going to need to conduct this top improver analysis, and we're going to give you the tools. So you're not going to replicate everything we did, but you're going to be able to have a good understanding of how we got there, and you can adjust it as you see fit. So you're going to need the accountability system, and I'll show you how you're going to use that. One of the ways is that you're going to make sure you're on the same page with us as far as definitions and measures, and I'll show you how to get there. And then you're also going to use the interactive portal on the accountability system, because that's where you're going to download the data sets. And just for this demonstration, we're going to use Excel. So I'll show you some of the formulas used to build the analysis there. Okay, so let me take you to a couple of the resources here. The first one being the accountability system, and as you can see, here is the URL, txhigheredaccountability.org. In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how we get to some of the completion data. So first, over here where there's the hand icon, under public universities, I'm going to click on that. For this demonstration, I'm going to show public universities completion data. So the first step is click on public universities, and here it confirms that I'm looking for measures related to public universities. Next, I'm going to click on completion, right here with this icon. And then we get the dancing dots. This just lets you know that the system is thinking and it's going to get your data soon. Okay. So for this analysis, we just need the first table, which is degrees and certificates awarded. And again, we're looking at public universities, as you can see here, selected data for public universities. And in this table, the first column will show you the different degree levels for this sector for public universities. The next column will show you each year the count of completions, total completions, and then broken down into each degree level. The last column is percent change, and it'll show you the percent change from the year 2018 from 2016. Okay, so it shows you a little bit of the difference between those years. So the reason we're going to use that is because, one, we want to make sure we're getting the right data, and this is a way to gauge that we're at the right data set. And second is if you come under resources, here's where you see measures and definitions, and it'll get you to this page, which will then, you want to go to this drop-down menu where it says statewide, and you'll see all the measures and definitions for each sector. So for public universities, under degrees and certificates awarded, you click on it, and it'll give you the measure, and it'll show you what's counted in this particular sector as far as completion. So you can see all the way from certificates, associates, bachelor's, master's, doctoral degrees. Okay? So now the way that we're going to use this is we're going to go to interactive in just a minute. Sorry. And so we're going to leave it here for the public sector for degrees and certificates awarded. I have another tab open, and it's still at the accountability system. But this time I'm going to go all the way to the upper right hand where it says interactive and click on that. The next step I'm going to take is I'm going to download data, because this gives me the actual data sets that I'll need, and then I can walk through the steps here with you. So once you click on interactive and download data, it takes you to this screen where you're going to select a different series of drop-down menus. The first one is select institution type. For this example, I'm going to show you public universities, so I'm going to click on that first. Next, it's going to ask select an institution. For this example, I'm going to select all institutions. You can certainly select just one or two or how many you need, but for our purposes, selecting all makes the most efficient sense. in what data would you like to see? Here's where I get to select my data table. And for this example, I'm going to select degrees and certificates awarded by gender, ethnicity, level, and region. So it's the third option. For this purpose, I don't need all the years. I'm only going to do 2016, 2017, and 2018. Genders, I'm going to keep both. Ethnicity, I'm going to keep all of them. And I'll show you why in a few minutes why it's a good idea just for this example to keep them. Here's where it gets really important, is selecting the degree levels to filter. Okay? We want to make sure we get the right data set here. And so we're going to select just a few of these. Okay? We're going to select total 6. So what I like to do is click the select all, so it takes everything off. And here I'm going to select certificate, associate, bachelor's, master's, doctoral research, and doctoral professional practice. And that's because if we look back at the accountability system, here are the degree levels. So making sure that I only select those. Okay. Under regions to filter, we don't need career schools or out-of-state unknown for this analysis. You can certainly use it for other analyses. All right, so once I select all the drop-down menu filters that I'm happy with, I can view a report, and that's going to give me a preview of the data table that I'm going to be able to download. So as you can see here, there's the year, 2016, all the way to region. So these are the Higher Education Coordinating Board's regions, and the count means the number of completions for this particular institution, Angelo State, for female African American or getting a bachelor's. You have 32, okay? So you can either create a PDF, but for our example, we're going to create a CSV. So we click on Create CSV, and it generates a table for us here. We just click on it, and it opens up the table. Once you get this table in Excel, what I like to do just for efficiency is right-click, press Insert, and it gives me an extra row here. Once I have that, I can click anywhere on these rows or columns. And then after that, I can click on Insert, Pivot Table, and it selects my range for me. So it makes it a little bit more efficient, make sure that I don't miss anything. So there's the range selected, and I do want a new worksheet. So we click OK. Let me just maximize this. Okay, so I'll give you a moment just to kind of soak that in. And now I'm going to show you how to use this pivot table for your purpose of analyzing the top improvers. Okay? So what we're going to do is we come up here with this pivot table field, and we're going to select dim year, and we're going to put that into the columns. There we go. We put it to columns. The ins list, we'll put it into rows, and there they are. And then the count, we want to put that into values, and there they are. So remember that I said I like to use the accountability system just to make sure that I'm getting the right data set. So the way that I gauge that is I look at the grand total here, and this is the grand total for completion in the public university space for the year 2016, 2017, and 2018. And so I can quickly go back to the accountability system just to confirm I have the right data. Here's for 2016, 144,911. For 2017, 150,000 and change, and 2018, 156,348. So now let's go back, and there it is. It matches up nicely. So this is a good way just to make sure that I'm getting the right data set, and I can be confident in my analysis. Okay. The other nice thing about a pivot table is that you don't have to keep the default labels here. So instead of row labels, we can change this to institution. And it'll keep it for us now. And here we want to highlight from institution to the last university there. And they're in alphabet, no, not alphabet, yeah, they are alphabet order. And then we want to come across to the different columns, 2016, 17, and 18. We won't need grand total for this. We copy this data, this column, and we're going to create a new worksheet. And we'll call this one percentage change. And we'll come down to about the 4th row here. And then under paste, we'll use this one here that says no borders, just to keep the formatting the same. Okay. So now that we have this data, we can go ahead and calculate our percent change. So we'll just label it here, percent change, so we can refer to it later. A little misspelling there. All right, so here's the formula. For some of you, it might just be a refresher. So we're going to open up with an equal sign, then a parenthesis, and we want first the data from 2018. We're going to subtract that from the data from 2016. Close that with a parenthesis. Then we're going to divide it, and we're going to use ABS. We get the absolute value. You can double click that. And for that, we want the 2016 data. Okay. We close the parentheses, then hit enter. We get it in decimal point, and we can change that in just a minute. But you see this little square on the bottom right. Once we get to it, it becomes a black cross. We just double click on it, and it fills in the rest of the cells for us there. Okay. So now if we want to change it, we just, under the home menu, you can change it to percentage and give it a couple of decimal points. Okay, so that's how we do our percentage change, and that's going to help us when we build out the rest of the analysis. So that's part A. In part B, we're going to dig a little bit deeper, so we're going to go into more of a deeper dive. Think of it like underwater scuba diving. We're going to go deeper to see what's down there. And just as a good practice, we will name all our sheets here. So this one is the pivot table. And this one is our raw data. Use the right caps. Okay. Now that we have that data, let's go into a deeper dive. And what we're going to do now is we're going to build out a little analysis. So what we're going to do is we're going to do percentiles. We're also going to be able to do a little bit more percent rank. And we're also going to do, be able to plot this on a matrix. Okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to set this up. And we can come to the pivot table for that. So the reason we selected region is because we're going to be able to filter it. So here where you see region, you're just going to drop it into the filter. And that places it all the way at the top of the pivot table. So we click on the drop-down arrow, and then we have all the regions that we can choose from. Right now we have all the regions selected, but we can choose just one or two. For this example, I'm only going to choose one, and I'll choose South Texas. And here it gives me all the institutions, 4-year institutions in South Texas. Okay? Okay, so we selected South Texas data for 4-year institutions. What we're going to do is, again, best practice, let's name this sheet. Over here, we'll call it South Texas. then we're going to copy and paste the data from this pivot table. Okay. So here's the institution. Again, we don't need grand total for it, for this analysis right now. And here we'll go about to maybe the 11th row, and under the home, we'll go to paste, we'll go to no borders. So there it is. And here we're going to start a couple different naming conventions because it's going to help us with our named ranges. So this one we were going to call South Texas. We can do it University for short. And then we're going to say that this is completion data. Okay. So we'll start here with our percentage change. All right, so let's name it South Texas percentage change. Again, the formula is just like this, equal sign, 2018 data minus 2016 data, close the parentheses, we're going to divide by an absolute value, of 2016 data. The black cross, just double click it, and it will autofill the rest of our data here. Now we can come over here and just change it to a percent sign, and we'll do a couple of decimals as well. Now we want all the data, including the name here, because we're going to name this range. So we highlight it, and then we go to Formula. We go to Create from Selection. Then we get this box here, and we want to make sure that top row is checked. And by doing that, you can see that it is creating a name for this range. So we click OK. And now when we click it, we will see the name here, all the way to the upper left-hand side. Okay? So it's not a necessity to do this. I just find it that it's more efficient when you're going to be writing your statement. So let's format this just a little bit so we know what we are referring to later in the future. So we're going to call this South Texas completion. Then here's where we're going to use the percentile. So if you remember, 90th percentile is going to be our high category. 89th percentile up to 98th percentile will be our medium category. And 50th percentile or lower is going to be our low category. And here's how we use it. We say equal sign, then we open up with the parentheses, okay? And here's where we get to use the name range. So just by typing SO, we can see that it pops up. You can double click on it, and there it is. So it makes it just a little bit more efficient so we don't have to keep writing down all the numbers and letters in there, so it makes it a little bit more easier. And then if we want the percentile, the 90th percentile here, we do 0.9 because we're going to use decimal point, and then close it. Oh, yes I did. I did not put percentile in front of the parentheses. Okay. Percentile. Now it should work. There it is. This is decimal point, but we can change that in a minute. And we can double click on it just so we don't have to write out the entire formula again, and just change the decimal point. So this becomes 0.89, then this becomes 0.5. There it is. These are our percentiles. So we'll change this to percentage. And for this analysis, I like to get at least 2 decimal points, because there were some occasions where at the 3rd or 4th decimal point made the difference between being categorized a medium and a low, or a high and a medium. And so just opening them up more to more decimal points, more places behind the decimal point will make that clear. All right, now that we have that, let's figure out where all of these institutions play in. One of the easiest ways is just to start by sorting. So we're going to highlight everything here. We're going to go to Data. Then we're going to go to Sort. We're going to select South Texas percentage change. And here we want it from largest to smallest. So we have that set up that way. Now here's where we're going to say this is the percentile status. For South Texas. Okay. And the way that we're going to set that up then is through this formula. We're going to use a nested if statement. Okay? So here it is. Do if. We're going to say this cell here, E12, and we're going to lock it. Okay. So we're just going to lock the row here by putting the $sign in front of the letter. So if E12 is less than or equal to, and here we're going to start with the 50th percentile. So this cell, B5, and here we want to lock both the column and the row. This way, if anything changes by locking both the column and the row, we want to make sure that this is referring just to this column and this row. So B5, if anything goes in there, it changes the entire formula. But for this example, we want to make sure that it's only referring to this row, this column, so it doesn't refer to anything else. Okay. If it's less than or greater equal to that, we're going to characterize it as low. Okay. Now we're going to put another if statement in here. We're also going to say back to this one, E12. Then if E12 is less than or equal to B4, and we want to lock the rows and the columns, then we're going to say that that's a medium. Our last if statement goes back to the cell again, E12. And this time we want to see if it's greater than or equal to B3. If it is, then this will be high. Now we close all our parentheses. So in this case, we're going to close 3 parentheses. Okay. And there we can see Saul Ross State University Rio Grande is characterized as being in the high. Then we can double click it, and now it characterizes, it puts every institution in a category for this region. So Sul Ross State University of Rio Grande is in the high category for the South Texas region. Okay? Like that. Well, that helps us out. There's one more thing that we need to do, and that's percentile rank, and that's going to help us to then be able to plot this on a scatter plot. So we're going to do South Texas percentile rank, and I just write short form to help with the analysis. Okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at using a name range again. So we're going to open up by equal sign, parentheses, and this time we're going to use %rank.inc. Okay? Once we have that, let me fix this. I put an extra parentheses. So we're going to look at the South Texas, get percent change. There it is. So I want to look, for example, right now at Sul Ross, see where it ranks. So we put that number in that cell, E12. Click on it. It's 1. Then we can double click and we see some decimal points there. So let's put everything in decimal points. Decimal points. Okay, so the way that you interpret this is that Sul Ross State University of Rio Grande is above all the other institutions for this region. Texas A&M San Antonio is above almost 86% of the other institutions in this region, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then that's going to help us out with plotting our matrix. Okay. The way that we get that is that for each region, you depending on the analysis you do, you would use this data to plot it. And let me show you what that would look like. So here, I've already gone ahead and, just like in a good cooking show, chopped up the onions, all the carrots, and I'm showing you the final product here. Okay. So as you can see here, we have the institution, and here we were looking at, looks like West Texas. Oh, we're looking at all the institutions, at some of the institutions here, and we were plotting out them on a scatter plot matrix. So we found out here which are the top improvers for universities for overall 60 by 30 completions. And then we plotted them on here. So what we did is we highlighted all the data. Then under Insert, we said Recommended Charts, and then All Charts. And we want to look at XY scatter plot and choose this one, the one to the right, and play around a little bit with the axes just to get it right. We'll take it out of there. And the way that we got there is that then we had a percentile ranking for each institution. So here we have the region percentile ranking, and the peer group percent rank, and we can see what they look like. Okay? And the way we're able to do that is through a Vlookup, and you'll have this formula in your PowerPoint. But as you can see here, the Vlookup statement is equals Vlookup, and then parentheses. That $sign is referring to whatever in cell A4. So here it's referring to West Texas, and this is shorthand that it was in the High Plains Northwest region, and we're looking at the percent rank for that region. In my example, it was in the 7th column, so that's what 7 stands for, and false means that I wanted an exact match. So I did that for each institution based on their region, and then also their peer group. So as you can see here, that's there. One of the things that you will see in the PowerPoint is that there are also going to be examples of how you can get to other data sets. So we looked at public universities, and that was our whole demonstration. But you can also learn how you can download the correct data set for community college, for economic disadvantage for community college, and grad rate. And then transfer, field of study, economic disadvantage for public universities, grad rates for public universities, and transfer data sets for public universities. Okay. The other nice thing that you're going to get in the PowerPoint is you're going to get a crosswalk of the regions and peer groups for each institution. So it's going to be embedded in the PowerPoint. You can double click on this icon and it'll give you the university region and peer groups and the region and peer groups for community technical colleges. And let me show you what that looks like. As you can see, you'll be able to double click. Well, here it is. So for community technical colleges, here is the crosswalk, and it's set up as a table. So if you, for example, just wanted to see your region and you happen to be, let's say, in the Central Texas region, you can just click on Central Texas, and it'll give you all the institutions there, plus which peer group that they're in, so you'll be able to use that Vlookup function. And you can do the same thing for peer groups. Okay? And this is everything we walked through here. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to be on this webinar, and we welcome any questions that you might have. Here's my contact information if you want to get a hold of me to learn how we did this presentation and also how we conducted the analysis. Thank you very much.